Hello, Nathan Judah. I'm here with Wolves reporter. It is Mr. Liam Keane. Liam, we've moved into the sacred Wolves dressing room.
My first time in it.
My first time as well.
It's very nice.
Went into the old ice bath. How was that? I wanted to do a video from there, but I couldn't fill it in time.
Yeah, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. I was going to go down a certain route there. I'm not going to go there.
Probably best. Look, we're sitting behind the GOAT.
There he is.
Incredible. Ruben Neves. Let's start with him then. Midfielders. I mean, just can't describe the superlatives that you can have with him, the season that he's made, the impact that he's made as a Wolves player. Look, it's likely, isn't it, that probably he's played his last game for Wolverhampton Wanderers. We can only hope. But what sort of season do you think Ruben Neves had?
Well, I think you can characterise his season probably by October and November, really, because when the team was really going downhill, he almost single-handedly dragged Wolves through games at times.
He had an unbelievable run of games where he was just a standout, wasn't he?
Yeah. There was a game here, I think it was maybe West Ham here. I think he was absolutely unbelievable that day. And there was several other ones as well. Sure. I mean, he's clearly Wolves' most talented player. I think that's obvious. Their biggest asset, hence why he's most likely to leave with 1 year left on his deal. Look, he's a massive player for Wolves, and if he does go, he'll leave with every fan's blessing, I think.
Yeah, great ovation for him, wasn't it, the last home game. We'll talk about the, fees, etc. at the end of this, but huge player, probably the number one midfielder, would you say, in that group?
It has to be. Yeah, it has to be. Look, again, just for that influence, particularly when it was going bad for Wolves. I know there's that that narrative around Wolves winning here against Chelsea and Brentford without him, but if you've got a Neves fit and available, you're playing because he's that good.
One person who's definitely not here because the Wolves have announced him, that's Joao Moutinho. Look, obviously, you would have thought season-wise for Moutinho, we knew that he was going to start fading away, not fading away to the background, but obviously age, etc. Just a bit of a sour taste left in the mouth with that last couple of games, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we only know it from one side. We know from what Lopetigui's told us that there's two sides to every story. I'm sure the player will have a different version of events. But going based off what Lopetigui's told us and what we know, is that Moutinho didn't want to play. And as far as I'm concerned, that's really poor. Do I understand it purely from a footballing point of view? I understand it, I don't agree with it. What I don't understand, and also not agree with, is not arriving at the stadium to watch the team and see the fans off, particularly here against Everton on that last day. So I don't understand it. I can't give any reasons for it. I'm sure the player has his reasons, and we may or may not ever hear what they are. But what we can talk about and what we can base him off is his influence on Wolves over the last 5 years, and he's been one of the best players to put on a Wolves shirt, potentially in the club's history, probably certainly since I've been alive and in my era. And I think he has to be praised for the kind of influence he had at Wolves. I mean, he was a superb player. This season, not so much.
Yeah.
He's definitely tailed off. But I think the right time to move on as well, if I'm honest. But he was brilliant.
Do you feel missing out on the World Cup? Because he lost his place just before that, didn't he? Do you feel that had a bit of an effect on him?
I think it's going to, of course it's going to, because you want to play.
Because he would have been devastated. I feel like he would have really wanted to go to that World Cup and probably retire. I'm sure retire after that.
The amount of caps he's got as well. I think he's the second highest, isn't he? He's got 140 odd caps, but not bad.
And I know we haven't talked about it too much, but I feel like that might have really hurt him more than maybe we've conveyed it to.
Yeah, and of course since then he's not been called up either since the World Cup as well. I mean, obviously Totti Gomes getting into the last squad and things like that. So yeah, I think that's going to hurt. It's going to hurt, and I think he wants to carry on playing clearly. Hence why he didn't play in those last few games. Didn't want to get himself injured in any way, and I would expect he probably rocks up. If not on the continent, somewhere maybe back in Portugal, that maybe he might get a big money move in Saudi Arabia or something like that. He'll go and play again, I imagine. And I think every Wolves fan will wish him well. It's just a shame that last few weeks of his Wolves time wasn't quite as special as it probably could have been.
One of our pre-season trips went to go and watch the old Sporting Lisbon. There was a player there called Matheus Nunes. I thought, he's useful, he's decent, wouldn't mind signing him. Well, they did. They paid a lot of money for him. What do you make of it?
The one word is probably underwhelming, because has it ever been for a lack of endeavour or lack of trying? I don't think so. There's very few instances where I don't think Matheus has put in the work. I think his work ethic has, by and large, always been there. There's other players we can talk about that it hasn't been of the signings.
And we will be.
I don't think that's ever been lacking from him, but it just hasn't quite clicked. I think getting up to speed with the Premier League and English football has been a big factor. The physicality of it, obviously been played out of position quite a lot, particularly recently. Do I think there's definitely a very talented player in there that can probably go 2 or 3 levels higher next season if it all works out well for him, definitely. But underwhelming is the word, particularly when he paid 38 million, obviously rising to 42 for a player like that as well.
I mean, his best performances really ironically came when Ruben Neves was not in the side. The likelihood is Neves will not be here next year. I mean, remains to be seen whether Cunha is. Cunha, sorry. Nunes is Cunha's shirt, so that's why I'm looking at it. Whether Nunes has been linked with a move to Liverpool, big money. Can you see? I mean, Liverpool have watched him this season. Do you think that they'd pay 45, 50 million pounds for Matheus Nunes?
Well, I mean, they've been looking at him for a long time. I mean, even before Wolves signed him, City and Liverpool had been watching him and liked him as a player. Purely on his performances this season, is he worthy of a big money move to Liverpool? No. But if he has a really good season next year, how much is he worth? He's under a long contract with Wolves as well. He's worth 60, 70 million potentially. There's a potential there to be worth a hell of a lot of money if he has a big season next year.
He's a big player for us next year, isn't he, if he's here?
And would a big club maybe take a punt this summer on getting him a lot cheaper than that and hoping that he kicks on next season? Possibly. But I think warranted it on his, or based on his performances, doesn't warrant a move. And I think it's probably unlikely. So if he is around, it's a big year for him. It's a big season for him, because if he wants that move, which was essentially promised to him when he arrived at Wolves, because we all know the way Wolves work, they will allow players to move on at the right time.
Yeah.
If he wants that, he's got to perform.
He scored that goal against Chelsea, didn't he? Unbelievable wonder goal, and you could just see in his celebration that there was a lot of frustration coming out of there, and probably he knew as well that he wasn't performing, as well as he could have done. And like you said, could be a massive season for him going forward. Another one who I think started pretty well when he was available, got that injury and never came back into really consideration until the end of the season, was Boubacar Traore. What did you make of him? And do you feel that the next season is a big year for him?
We'll see the best of him, I think, next year. What we did see of him was a player that is full of energy, has got incredible stats for winning the ball high up the pitch. I don't know how he does it so often, and that for wanting to create a team that is on the front foot, breaks at speed, creates chances, scores goals. You need someone like that in midfield. So he will definitely add that. He's a little bit haphazard. I think it's fair to say sometimes his second touch is a tackle. He's a little bit haphazard, but I like him. I like what he brings.
He's a walking booking at the moment.
He's a walking booking
before he got injured.
He is. You need to smoothen the edges a little bit with him, but I do like what he offers. Obviously, he had injury issues this season, but Lopetegui, when they were out in Marbella, obviously when he came in before their first game back after the World Cup, he really liked him. Was gutted when he got injured. Obviously, with signings that they made in January, meant that he didn't get as many opportunities before that, or after that rather. But I think he'll be a big player for us next year. That's my prediction. I think he'll be one to watch.
Free Joao Gomes, and he was free.
He was free.
He was free. Yeah. Look, I mean, obviously the talent's there. He's a young lad. We wouldn't expect him to start every single week, but he has showed flashes that he could be something very special.
I think he's a gem. I really do. And this is where Wolves' recruitment and scouting team come into their own when you make a signing like that, because I thought he was obviously didn't play a plethora of games or start a plethora of games, but in the opportunities he got, by and large, he took them. I think there's more to come, which is exciting, but I think he's a really, really good, strong, charismatic, battling midfielder, and someone who imagine a midfield of Lemina, Joao Gomez, Boubacar Traore. Now there's going to be a lot of turnovers in that midfield, so occasionally, but there's a lot of battle and a lot of bottle in that midfield as well. So I really like him. Battle and bottle. Wow. I don't know how much to get that out. I think he'll be a massive player for Wolves going forward. I think next year you'll see a lot more from him, and to be honest, I think he's a player that will move on and play for a Champions League club in the next few seasons. I think he's that good.
Joe Hodge, a great, even though he wasn't involved until the very end of the season, but look, I thought he had an excellent impact, and really has put himself, I'm not going to say in that first team squad next season he could be, but at least in a Championship alone, because he was very exciting and had some really good games, didn't he, when Wolves were struggling. I think
if he does go on loan, and that's obviously a big question mark for him this summer, he's definitely good enough to walk into a top half Championship side, a side potentially challenging promotion. Look at where Kundal obviously went and played fairly regularly at Swansea this season. I think he's good enough for that. What I like about Joe Hodge is he's similar again to Joao Gomez, is he's tough in the tackle, he's full of endeavour, full of energy. very good technically as well. And considering his quite diminutive size, you know, he puts himself about and gives as good as he gets. So I really like him as a player. I think on going forward as well as defensively, I think he's probably more of an 8 kind of player, a bit of a box-to-box kind of player. And I think he's overall got a lot of talent. I think there's, again, he's young. There's going to be a little bit of fine tuning there. Of course, there is. Whether he gets the chance here next season or not is a big question mark. But I think for Wolves going forward in the next 2, 3, 4 seasons, I think he's got the potential. Whether it works out or not is another thing. He's got the potential to be a starter for Wolves in the Premier League. I really like him. Character-wise as well is a really, really important trait. He wasn't in the squad here against Everton in the final home game, but turned up, watched the team, as you should do. Moutinho, Neto, Johnny, Aït-Nouri, none of these players were here. So I think that says a lot about him as a person as well as a player.
So let's speculate, and of course, you know, this could change, but let's say no Neves, obviously no Moutinho next year. Let's say Nunes stays. What do you do signing-wise? What do they need? Because they definitely need bodies there, don't they? Well, they need more than bodies, they need talent. So what age to look at, what kind of price range? You know, they're not going to spend massive money. And what kind of a position do you need?
You missed out Mario Lemina.
Oh, Mario Lemina, go on then, we'll go to that.
Let me do him quickly.
Let's go Lemina quickly.
Because he deserves a big segment really in the video, doesn't he? Because I thought alongside Dawson, which obviously we've already spoken about, Lemina was one of the catalysts for Wolves staying in the Premier League. Now there were bad performances at times, few and far between, but overall he added a real steal towards the midfield, and again the kind of character he is, I think he's a bit more mature now coming back to the Premier League. He's captain material, which I don't think his previous clubs probably would have said about him. But as a person, the way he's developed and on the pitch, I thought he was absolutely superb for the vast majority.
Do you think that Lemina is a 100% starter next season?
I think he has to be.
Yeah, and just kind of like just in front of that back four?
Yeah, I think he has to be. Particularly with Neves potentially leaving, he sort of fills that void. I know they're slightly different players, but they play similar roles. So when they play together, it worked a lot of times, but there were times when it didn't, particularly away from home at sort of top 6 kind of clubs. So I think he sort of fills that void. You have a Joao Gomes alongside him. For me, Nunes is still a midfielder as well, so you bring him centrally rather than out wide. Wolves actually going into the summer, into next season, if let's say hypothetically they only lose Neves, they've actually got a really good base there.
Yeah.
They probably don't need to add a lot to that. Maybe an Alex Scott that they really like at Bristol City, whether they can make that work. But they don't need to make a lot of additions to that midfield for me. I think they actually got a really good nucleus of the squad in that particular position.
He was bang out of order for that sending off though.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's quite at fault for that one. I wasn't there. So.
It's one of the most ridiculous things of all time.
I actually saw the video again the other day.
Did you?
It just popped up on social media, and I again just bemused.
So where do they need to add? And what kind of quality do they need to add?
I think
is it a 10? Is it an 8? Is it a?
Again, it depends. Do you play Sarabia as a 10? There's obviously potential there, but 10 for me sticks out as probably the one out of all of them, because Nunes is not a 10. He's an 8 for me. You've got some 6s in there. You've got some other 8s in there. I think you've pretty much covered those bases really. You've got defensive-minded players. You've got box-to-box minded players. I think you need someone who's probably more of a 10 in there, unless Sarabia comes across. But depends.
And names-wise, what would you?
Again, I keep coming back to Alex Scott only because I know that the club like him a lot. But from what I've seen of him, he is a good forward-thinking, dynamic midfielder, and the kind of thing that Wolves could benefit from. And also the fact that I think he's still 19 as well. The fact that he's young, will be making his first step up to the Premier League, doesn't have to necessarily play every week, and I think that would actually complement Wolves' squad quite nicely. But I'm sure Lopetegui will have his own ideas as well. But he does that. You know, the manager does like Alex Scott as well. The club sort of presented him to Lopetegui, and he wants to sign him. But there's a lot of clubs interested.
Right, brings us to the grading for the midfielders. I'll go first, you can follow up, Mr. Liam Keane. I'm going to go for... difficult.
You thought about this, clearly.
Well, Neves is way ahead of the rest, so I want to give Neves like an A, but then a few of them have been disappointing. I'm going to go C+.
Oh, mate, we've copied each other again.
Oh, really?
I was going to say the exact same.
Between B- and C+.
I was close to going up into the B, but I think you just have, considering where the team obviously finished and how the season went, you just have to bring them down. But there's players like Neves, Lemina, Hodge, Joao Gomes that, you know, bump it up a little bit. Obviously Boubacar then he didn't play as much, brings it down. So I think that's probably about right.
C+ we'll see you Thursday for the forwards.